One in the middle. There we go. Look up at me. Is a big, beautiful, healthy cock. Morning, everybody. This is Matt with Low Cash Homestead, and right now I'm going to take a crispy and delicious drink. Fountain Coca-Cola. It's the greatest. All right, so today is one of the days Mrs. Low Cash Homestead is home, so she is not awake yet. It's her day off, and so it's kind of my day off too. But I did do my early chores already, and I'm going to walk over here and just give you a quick little tour and kind of update on some of the stuff we're doing. Alright, so one of the things that we did is we repurposed our solid bowls. I used these last year for growing lettuce, but we're going to be we're attempting to produce lettuce on a much larger scale this year. So we're going to be doing that a little bit different. These actually, I repurposed these, and these are growing onions. So these are growing red onions, and these are growing white, yellow, and red onions. So we got about 200 onions in there, and I went with the sets, the little bulbs. I was able to get those at a very, very good price here, and it's actually, if you look at it like calendar wise and frost date wise and all of that, way too early to do this, but we did it anyway. Here we planted some Kennebec potatoes, and they are right next to this area here. This deep compost area is our potato area, and I'm not even sure for all the potatoes that I have on order. This should be arriving in April. If I even have enough room, I might have to expand this some more. But there's our caterpillar tunnel. That's going to be our nightshade house. It's going to have our tomatoes and peppers and eggplants and all of that stuff in it. Caterpillar tunnel. This gray tarp there, that is my machinery doors. I built machinery doors on both ends of mine so I can get my equipment in and out. I don't have a lot of big equipment. My biggest piece of equipment is 54 inches wide. So these are 5.5 feet wide on the machinery doors here on the caterpillar tunnel. So these are Kennebec potatoes, and we put them, basically what we did is I got some PVC pipe. I have a bunch of PVC pipe. I keep stocks of that because I build all kinds of stuff out of it. And we just cut 2-foot sections, wrote what we have on it, drove it down to the ground. Then I stretched that 12-inch drip tape. It's the 5/8 drip tape, but the spacing is 12 inches on the emitters. We stretched that across. I left plenty of room on each end because I don't have all the irrigation for this area designed yet. And then we just folded it up, duct taped it on there with this black duct tape. I think I got that at like Dollar General or something. And then my son came through and put a potato on every emitter. Now they're off to the side, so the drip tape runs here, so the potato is right there. Then we mixed up some soils, and we'll go over that later, and put a shovel full of soil on each one. And then we got a lot of rain over the last 2 days, so we picked up some straw and just put straw over it, so that the potatoes can get started in that straw in our deep compost area where we're going to do all these potatoes anyway. This was 18 inches deep when we piled it on there. And over the course of the winter, of course, the snow and rain and everything, it starts to degrade it. But that's our deep composting area, and that's where we're going to put a lot of our potatoes. And with all the varieties that I have, we might have to expand that out some more. So we'll handle that when we get to it. We have deep litter here. Not litter, excuse me, deep compost here. It's too muddy for me to get the tractor out and push this over the rest of the garden, so it's going to have to dry out some before I can do that. I will most likely use the snow blade to do that. Raking this out by hand, well, it's a little bit painful. So it's not something we're going to do. Oh, by the way, I do have in my chickens, as these Cornish cross have grown up, I realize that what I've got right there, if maybe he'll look up at me, he's the one in the middle. There we go, look up at me, is a big, beautiful, healthy cock. Right there. Doing is something that I'm very good at, and that is clearance shopping. And picking up, bad goods on clearance. I've used clearance bad goods a lot. I don't have any particular issues with them. I've never had like fungus gnats or anything like that. If you're concerned about it, pour boiling hot water through it. So this is this timberline. I like this stuff. It's a little chunky. And what I mean by that is it's composted further than most of the bag goods you're going to get. Now, that's not compost. That's potting soil, but pretty much all potting soils are derived from composted wood and forestry products. So I like the timberline. It's composted quite a bit. You might get chunks of sticks are in it, but you don't get a whole lot of distinguishable wood fibers is what I call it. Where you could go, hey, here's some sawdust, you know. It's usually composted down pretty well. And then this is earth grow. You can get this timberline, depending on your area, about $2, anywhere between $2 and $4. This you can get for about $2.50. This is humus and manure, 0.05 across the board. This is timberline cow manure and compost, and you can get that for $2.50 or so. This is our sphagnum peat moss. This is made by Premier Tech Horticulture, same company that makes Peromix. It's not Peromix, it's just the peat moss. And then this is Expert Gardener topsoil, $1.50 at Wally World. A little chunky for your root crops, you should screen it, but for your top dressings and bed fills and things like that, I haven't had any problems with it. I mix it with a little potting soil, and basically, you know, I'll go like 2 bags of that to half a bag of that to half a bag of that to a bag of that. And the peat moss, I kind of go on how fluffy it is based on what it is I'm going to grow there. We also scored major scores on irrigation. We'll talk about the fittings here in a minute. Wally World. Wally World, your Wally World may be different, but out here in the sticks, Wally World carries irrigation stuff. This is 1/2 inch, 0.70. This is a 50-foot roll of poly tubing. I have not been able to find this at the price that I was able to get it from Wally World, just retail right off the shelf. I bought all the tubes they had, 250 feet. They had limited supplies, and a lot of the surrounding stores, even further south as you get more into Ozark country and you know, some of the other farming communities that, you know, are in Missouri, they didn't even have it. So this was cheap. This was $4 for a 50-foot roll, and I haven't been able to find that kind of you know, cost per foot really anywhere else. So 250 feet of that. This is our main line. Okay. There's a bag full of fittings down there, and that's mostly connectors, end caps, shutoffs, things like that. Most of the fittings were $1 to $2 a piece. That brings us to row starters. We also have our drip tape. I don't know exactly how many feet of it I have left, but you know, we'll get through as much garden as we can with that. That's drip tape that I've had for years. When I got my very first high tunnel at a different homestead, a suburban homestead that we had, and I've been using it ever since. Actually, the first couple of years I totally forgot I had it. It was in a box in one of the sheds, and totally forgot that it even existed until I was looking for something, and I went, hey, drip tape, sweet! And so we ran that out. Now, let's talk about fittings. These are the fittings that are going to connect into this distribution tubing and connect to our drip tape. The fittings is kind of where they kill you on drip systems. I was unable to find matching components, and what I mean by that is, you know, 6mm barb, 8mm barb, 3mm barb, 1/4 inch barb, 10mm barb. 10mm, that's a huge for a barb. I mean, that's the 10mm is the bolts. The size of the bolts that hold most of your cars together. Most cars together are held together, the bodies of them are held together with 10mm bolts. So look at a bolt on underneath your hood, and that'll be 10mm most likely. So I got these from Haas, kind of expensive, not about a little bit more expensive than Tech Supply and Farm Tech, but they had the product that I wanted, and I could get it in 2 days with you know, cheap shipping. Amazon does have Haas stuff, but I did buy these directly. We've got I think it's the 40 or the 50 pack of the shutoff valves, and then we got 2 bags of the row starters, and that's because there are some cases where I'm going to want to be able to isolate certain rows. And then this one is a good one, and I bought a bunch of these. I bought out pretty much all they had, and then I've been giving them away. You know, I have a couple friends a few towns over who are starting their little raised bed garden, and he loves turnips and beets. And I personally, I'm not really into turnips. Beets are decent, but I would eat the beet tops. You know, I don't really like the flesh, but I like the greens. And that's good because they're high in nitric acid, which is good for your circulatory system. But in any case, let's talk about this. So, went into a big box store, Home Depot, went in there looking for something else, came out with a truck full of these. This is a soaker kit. These were clearanced out. They go for about $40. I got these for $8 a piece, and I've got 600 feet left. So each kit does 100 foot. You get 100 foot of tubing, and then you get this bag of tees and connectors and caps and etc. So you can configure this pretty much in any way. If you were going to do 4 rows spaced 2 feet apart, you could get 4 23-foot rows about out of this tube, and this is the 3/8 weeping line, and its connectors. Like I said, I've got 600 feet left. I did buy a whole ton of them, and I've given them away to people who are friends of mine who are starting their gardens. So 600 feet there, $8 per unit. I pretty much stole these from the clearance racks at Home Depot. So that's I think we've got most of our irrigation. With the expansion also, the more you grow, the more infrastructure you're going to need, the more, irrigation system, unless you don't irrigate. If you don't irrigate, or if you live in an area where you don't need to irrigate, great. I live in Missouri, so we can go from soaking rain for weeks at a time to no rain at all for months. That's Missouri. So I wanted to show you those things, just kind of give you a quick look around on some of the things that we're doing. We got a lot of work ahead of us. What we're talking about today is topping off these beds. And this is just like a topsoil mix. And then we add some bagged goods. I'm actually using bagged goods for this. We're using this Timberline topsoil and cow manure and compost. It's a decent product. I've used it for years. It's a decent product. It's cost effective. And then we stir in our organic fertilizer and our Epsom salts and whatever amendments we're going to put in there, worm castings and such. And I do it with this Black & Decker, a little Black & Decker oscillating cultivator. That is a wonderful, wonderful tool. Let's talk about our organic fertilizers. We're using the JOBES Organic. This is something that I wanted to point out, and some of you may have noticed it and some of you may have not. These are the same thing. JOBES Organic Vegetable and Tomato, JOBES Organic Vegetable Tomato. That's a 16-pound bag. This is an 8-pound bag. Got a great deal on these. We've talked a lot about my clearance shopping. I'm not going to go into that much more. But here is what's interesting. If you look at the guaranteed analysis on this bag, this is a 253. This fertilizer is actually less strong than this fertilizer. This fertilizer is a 274. So, if you're growing root crops or something, you definitely, or just for root development, you definitely want that 274. I want that 274 over the 253. I want the 274 over the 253. I want the 274 over the 253. And both of these are OMRI listed, which works fantastic for us because we are certifying, we are going through the certification process for naturally grown, which will then stepstone us into the certification process for organic. And in my area, even though a lot of us grow in organic styles, no one really has those licensing. At least at our market. So the certified naturally grown license, I think, is going to be quite advantageous to us, but there are protocols that you have to follow. So I just wanted to point out for everybody else, don't just read this. Don't just read that. You need to read this. So if I want to put a fertilizer on my carrots, which one am I going to put on my carrots? Am I going to put the 253 or the 274? Well, I'm going to put the 274 because I want the higher levels of phosphorus and potassium. And I have some other things that I do with carrots. You know, you put your bone meal in, and you want to really give them as much potassium and phosphorus as possible for, and you know, for your tomatoes, I see a lot of fertilizers in the tomato are like 12, 10, 5 or something. Tomatoes, that's a low nitrogen. Hi Kitty, I love you, get off my foot. Tomatoes that's a low nitrogen plant. You don't need to, you know, put all that nitrogen in there. But I just wanted to draw attention, and I've noticed this with other organic fertilizers, that the batch ratings, the NPK ratings per batches could be different. So just pay attention to that. And thank you very much. Have a great day. Hey everybody, Matt with the Low Cash Homestead. So if you like this kind of content, please subscribe. If you enjoy our channel, please subscribe. If you like our videos, please hit that like key. And thank you very much. Have a great day.